So today my guest is Christopher Booth from Seattle in the USA. He is a pianist, composer and songwriter who writes music for music therapy. He is the owner of the By Christopher YouTube channel, whose music is there to encourage people who may have mental health issues to listen to his music as maybe an escape for the stress of their daily life. His aim is to have his music starting conversations around mental health awareness, but also the importance of checking your own well-being. Christopher has lived experience of growing up around mental health, and he's here today to talk about that lived experience and his music. So welcome, Christopher.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you and Rob. Thank you both for having me on your podcast today. I'm excited to talk about my music, and well said. I mean, that is exactly what I do, and it's all there for your mental well-being and for checking those stresses that come up in your daily life. And we all know too well how much stress there is out there in the world today. So
Definitely.
there's definitely reason to find new resources, whether it be music or anything else, to help with that. So appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited to talk about that with you.
No, you're welcome. I mean, you contacted me obviously a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn, and I was really blown away by the initial listening to the music, and also your reasons behind obviously trying to get it out there. It was almost like I couldn't believe, as I discussed with you last week, that you were trying to get it out there almost for free by the sounds of it. So thinking of that, then I'm curious what your motivation is over just getting your music out there.
Well, sure. I mean, as a musician, you can talk about it from two different perspectives, right? You can talk about it from the musician side, which every musician wants to, have their music out there and obviously get it, played and listened to. But there's also there's the side that I grew up with, watching myself write music at the encouragement of my mother, my grandfather, and watching what it did for them, and especially when my mom had depression, and it really helped her and really brought her out of those dark places. And throughout the years of writing, I've really just gotten so much positive feedback from that. So the motivation really for putting it out there for free, especially on the YouTube platform, is comes from a place that I can empathize with those people, and I can feel what it does for them. And I get a lot of joy out of bringing that to people, and also getting the conversation started around mental health. I think that's a good conversation starter, especially right now. But I think it's starting to become more socially acceptable to actually talk about mental health.
Definitely. And you mentioned your mum there and depression. So what was your first memories of being aware of mental health in your family?
So that was at a young age. I can't tell you how old I was, maybe 6, maybe 7 years old. But I remember my mom would spend long periods of time, days even, in her room, alone, isolated, not coming out and spending time with the family. And that was always very hurtful as a child, because I didn't understand why. Sometimes she would say she had a headache, and she did suffer with migraines, but we knew when she had a migraine, and we knew when it was something different, right? Because a migraine would last a day and it'd be gone. 3 days, 4 days, and she had challenges growing up, but different marriages and things, and had issues. But for us as a child, I mean, that was the first time I had really ever been around something where I didn't understand what that was. And it wasn't until going into my teenage years where I really started to piece together what was going on, and also what helped. What helped. I had this desire, because I just wanted to help her. I just wanted to bring her out. I mean, if you don't understand depression, and you don't understand that as a person that doesn't have it, you just think you can click your fingers and make it go away. Hey, just feel better, just be better. And so it took a long time to really understand what that was. And even today, I'm still learning. I'm still learning how people deal with depression, on different mental health challenges as a whole.
So I think you said you're obviously quite young when you first noticed some signs of mum staying in the room, and all those sorts of things. And you said you obviously found you were quite lonely at that time as well, I think is what you said. What other
Yeah.
challenges did it present you with when you was growing up?
Yeah, I mean, sure, lonely, sad to see what was going on. I used my music is because I started playing at 7 years old, and I lived on my piano. Literally lived on it, and I'm talking 7, 8 hours a day. I would just play, and so that was kind of like my escape from
Right.
the hardship that I was feeling and dealing with, and so I would play, and then every once in a while, my mom would say, "Well, that was nice. What was that? Oh, I made that up. Oh, okay. That made me happy." She would say, I like the way that. So I started making a connection really fast. Okay,
Right.
this is helping her. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Maybe she was saying that to be nice at the time, but for me, that was an answer. That was something that was allowing me to be more around my mom. So I did it.
Yeah. And once you noticed the connection, how did you sort of adapt that music to maybe even make her understand even more, for example?
hmm Well, once he made the connection, it became more or less it became more of, if it can help her, who else can it help, right? Because my mom wasn't the only person that had no mental health challenges. I mean, I have aunts and uncles, two uncles that passed away from suicide, um,
Right.
within the last few years, actually, and depression does run in my family. So kind of once I start understanding, okay, more people deal with this, um, maybe it can be used for a greater good. And when I was, I think, 13, 14 years old, that is when my mom really said, you should really start writing these down. You should really start, think about recording this. And, eventually kind of pushing me, encouraging me down that path. And that was such good positive reinforcement for me. I mean, I owe everything to her for encouraging that, and nurturing that musical talent that I had at a young age, and into my teenage years. So yeah.
So as you notice, it's saying there, the nurturing was there, which you maybe missed out on maybe some of the physical contact if mum was staying in the room, but the nurturing was still there in so much as she showed her love in a different way through the music as well. How did you
Absolutely.
how did you find you returned that? So once you started noticing the music more, did you find you was writing more and more?
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, I went from starting off, practicing a few hours a day to, I remember probably 13, 14 years old. I I almost 24/7, I felt like I was on there. I mean, I'd get up sometimes in the middle of the night, and I couldn't play in the middle of the night because my family was sleeping, but I'd go out there and I'd mimic on the keys, the song that I was trying to play, just because I just had this compulsion to continue to play. And so going from there, about 13 years old, I switched music teachers and got into a more advanced teacher, and I was really studying classical music at that point, and developing my own writing style. I had influences of music and stuff, and so I was really figuring out what I wanted to do with that. Did I want to go and be the concert pianist? Did I want to write music? Mental health was still kind of, I was figuring that part out still. I mean, as a teenager, you still really don't know everything, but you do know that it's starting to help in my family.
Mhm.
It's starting to help for other people that come over and listen and go, wow, this is really putting me in a calm place. And so I'm starting to go, at this point, I'm starting at 14 years old. I wrote my first single. And when I did my first album at 17, 3 years later, I had that single on there, and it's still there today. So
What sort of changes did you notice in your mum as far as her behaviour from the music? Did you notice any behaviours?
absolutely I did. I noticed when I played, and it didn't always have to be my music. Was She had her favorite pieces of Beethoven that she liked, and even Chopin. When I would play those songs, it would bring her into the room, and I feel like that's why I spent a lot of time playing. It's because it brought her in, and I would always sit down when she was away, or when she wasn't in the room or somewhere else. Maybe she was having a rough day. Maybe it was even a good day. I wanted my mom near. I didn't have to go talk to her and ask her to come. I'd just sit down and start playing one of her favorite songs, and it'd bring her into the room. And that was that's some positive reinforcement right there.
Yeah. I'm just wondering as well, sort of, since you mentioned, I think last week as well, obviously, a few years later, your mum's passed away.
Mhm.
How have you coped since your mum's passed away? How's that changed your music or your style?
Well, she got brain cancer in 2011 and she passed away in 2012. So it was short lived. And when she passed away, that was one of the darkest times in my life. It was a time in my life when I stopped writing. I stepped away from music entirely, for a period, and it took a long time before I started writing again. I started writing in 2017 again, and so it took a few years, and having to deal with unresolved issues that I had with her, and like I said, for those that have lost loved ones, you know the feeling. You know how difficult it is. I don't think it's about how you get over it, but it's how you learn to change your coping over time, and you mature with that coping, and it becomes easier. But it doesn't mean that you still don't hurt inside. So
No.
yeah.
Just wondering, Rob, have you got anything you've got at the moment? Want to ask Chris anything at the moment?
Well, I mean, I obviously draw parallels with regards to how Chris felt about his mother, losing his mother. My dad passed away in 2008, and uh, we didn't have a terrible relationship from a father-son perspective, but it wasn't that close. And as a child, I felt that my father was distant, and I didn't really get an opportunity to reflect on that until my dad had passed away. And that's a really sad thing. And looking back at myself, it was a little bit selfish. It was all about me, and what I'd missed growing up, as my dad had obviously work shifts and wasn't around, but when he was not working, he chose to do other things, and it was a bit of a generational thing as well. Back in South London, and a lot of time was spent out socializing rather than being at home with the children, possibly. So, I was. It took me a while to reconcile things that I had left unspoken as well. But it took a while to go through. But when I did go through it, I look back at what him and his sister went through as children. They lost two siblings at a very young age. He lost his mum to leukemia as a very young boy, or even just pre-teen, I think. His dad remarried quickly, and the stepmother wasn't really as loving and doting on him and his sister as she could have been. And as soon as my dad had the opportunity, he left home and joined the RAF. And my auntie, his sister, pretty much ran away to Wales, and that was their formative teenage years was just chaos. And I didn't really learn all about that until my dad had gone, and that upset me. And so I can completely empathise. Obviously, you had a much closer relationship with your mother, but having lost someone through, he had not a great end to life either, with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, so lung disease. So his breathing was terrible. He could hardly walk at the end of it, and unfortunately, he was a heavy drinker, and had cirrhosis of the liver as a secondary cause of death. And I fell into that category, heavy drinking as well. Was joining the infantry straight from school, and got into drinking very early, and continued to drink all through my army career, and when I left, because I just fell in with my dad down the workingmen's club, as you do, and continued to drink, and thought that was the life to have. And yeah, it wasn't until very late that I got the opportunity to, you know, put a few things right. And yeah, so yeah, music is one of those things that I didn't really think about too much until I started. You know, we've only just met, Chris, but I've started thinking about where I've used music to help me in my, you know, for want of a better word, recovery. And it generally is linked with the meditation stuff that I do. There's always melodic music in the background, along with the calming voice of whoever the therapist is talking to you about, you know, what you want to listen to at the time. And yeah, it's great, and I love it. And my wife's a therapist, and she uses it in her work as well. So yeah, it's really interesting to talk about it from your angle this evening.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously that's a tremendous story that you tell, and then listening to that, and I draw a lot of parallels from what you said to my own father. Sounds very similar in my own life, and for me, I've used that as motivation. And how I raise my daughter is I want to be better than that, and we all hope to be better and give our children more than our parents gave us, but you know, for me, it's the motivation because I don't want to be anything like my dad. I want to be someone that's exemplary, that's involved in their kids' life, my daughter's life, and you know, so I use that as a motivation rather than saying, you know, well, my dad, an excuse to be that. And but you made another good point about listening to music and what you use it for. And I was having a conversation the other day with a gentleman. He was talking to me about feeling good with, you know, listening to music to feel good. And I said, well, you know, that's why we listen. He says that's why we listen to music. And I said, well, you know, think about this. I think that a lot of people turn on the music in the morning to get their day going, you know, to feel good about themselves. But I think a lot of people, or some people, listen to music to give themselves permission to release unresolved trauma. And music can reach a place in a person's heart or even a person's soul that sometimes a therapist cannot, or speaking to another person cannot, because it brings you back, it brings you to places, it transports you to different places in your life. You can have memories that come up during a song that you had forgotten about. And so I think that a lot of people will listen to music not just to feel good, but to allow a healing process to begin from within inside of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was going to ask you, I'm curious as to what you think happens to people, but that's almost answered my question then. When people are listening to music, you're saying it almost transports them to, allows them to obviously grieve if they need to, allows them to be angry if they need to, but also in other things, it also allows them to be happy if they want to be as well. You think you went to a dark place between your mum passing and before you started writing again in 2017. What do you think happened at that point then that took you away from that? Because obviously music was obviously a love. What do you think happened in that dark place?
Well, so, you know, losing my mom, I had I had written my 2001 album Journeys for her, and that was for her. And I have such a connection with that album, the music, and my mom, and losing her the way she passed away. I mean, she passed away at 59 years old, you know, so she never got to meet her granddaughter, you know, and so, you know, that was I feel like that the music I was writing had no meaning behind it because it wasn't there for the person it was intended for. And of course, there's lots of other people in my life that I love very much, but I associated music first and foremost with her. And so since she was gone, since she passed, it almost felt like food with no taste.
Yeah.
What's the point of eating it, right? Yeah. Well, you know, you know, you're not enjoying it. And in fact, it's even hurtful, you know, to sometimes sit down and play some songs. And that's why when I mentioned to Rob, about giving permission to resolve unresolved issues. That's for me. I mean, everything I say today is because I lived it. This isn't something that I read on the internet. It's something that I've been through, and so that's how I can speak on it, because I've experienced that.
Yeah, and with that lived experience, obviously comes the knowledge that you've now got as well. So, if you was to think back to, obviously, what was the trigger that got you writing again? Can you remember? Once you had that period where you didn't want to write, what was the trigger that said, actually, I have permission now to start again?
Well, a lot of it was I want to see what happened. It was a curiosity for myself, right? I wanted to see what happens if I start writing again. Like, do I want to open Pandora's box? I really, it was kind of scary. I had this idea in my head that, look, I think that as much as I was able to help my mom, or at least attempt to help my mom, I believe that I can do good for other people as well, and bring it up to a massive audience, globally. And I thought, well, let's start small. Let's write for some friends and family that I know. And I started the By Christopher brand. This was about 3 years ago, and I wrote 3 songs dedicated to mental health awareness, and they came out about a month apart. And I put them up, and I wanted to see what the reaction was, and the reaction was tremendous. I mean, I had people writing me and contacting me saying, "Look, why aren't you doing more of this? What is wrong with you? Why aren't you not just giving more of this every day?" And where do I begin? But that was about 3 years ago, like I said. And then 2 years ago is when my partner Karen and I found out we were going to be having a baby. Right. And we had been trying to have a baby for a while, many years.
I saw that sparkle in your eyes when you were going to start telling the story. I knew your daughter was going to be in the story.
Oh, yes, she is. And when we found out, boy, that gave me the permission to say, I'm writing the album. I had the idea behind it, what the motivation was going to be. I mean, just from the first song in the album, it's called The Beginning. That's the name of the song. And there's obviously that's pretty obvious. That's for my daughter. But the whole album I dedicated to her. But it became easier to write during that time. It became easier to write, and there was a reason behind it. And I felt like, there's a short poem I wrote for that song, and it says, when was your beginning? We all have a beginning. Was it when you looked into the abyss of your life and decided to go onwards? Was it the day you met your lover? No, it was the day you lived on in the life of another. And that was speaking to me the whole time I was writing that first song, knowing that I'm going to live on in the life of another, and so is my mom. And so that was a very powerful motivator to continue writing and to keep churning out the songs and recording and everything until I was able to get it all down.
Again, in that instant, it's obvious that the music had some purpose again in your mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I felt like it felt like I was being organic again. It felt there. I mean, if you think about from when I did my first album to when I did my second one, there's almost a 20-year gap between the two. And it's felt so surreal during this most recent one, because there's so many feelings that I'm coming back to from 2001, mainly with just the, obviously my mom, we talked about that, but the responses I'm getting from people around the world. I put this out on January 1 of this year, and I'm telling you, it's been 2 months straight of nonstop emails coming into my inbox every day telling me, do more, we love this, keep going. What's your next project? How can I help? Where can I get, more of this? Just everything. How can we collaborate? People want to collaborate, especially, I think Rob mentioned guided meditations, doing guided meditations and having the music underneath that. So, yeah.
And how's them contacts going at the moment? Are they looking good?
Yes, my schedule is full. So I was looking at for this week. I mean, I've got multiple things every single day. I've got talking to people, but most people are writing you right now because I've released a new series. So I have the album A Reflection of Time, but I've also released a new series called 7 Weeks of Focus. And the 7 Weeks of Focus is meditation music. So it's a little less distracting. So it's not so theme heavy, right? So you're not trying to do your yoga or your mindfulness practice and humming a tune in your head. It's just there to accompany your session. And they're about 20 minutes each. And on Tuesday, I'm releasing the 3rd week, and there's going to be 7 weeks total. So it'll all have a purpose behind it. So this week's purpose is going to be breathe in light, breathe out stress. And we can all be breathing out more stress right now.
Well, there's some light at the end of the tunnel, I believe.
I think so.
There is some light at the end of the tunnel. Me and Robert had a discussion earlier today, and we were looking at the difference between music therapy and a music therapist, for example.
Yeah.
So what sort of difference would you see? So how do you see yourself fitting into that?
Oh, that's a good question. So music therapy to me is something that people do every single day, and they don't even know they're doing it. I mean, maybe they do, but generally we turn on the songs to listen to feel good and get our day going. Okay. But doing music therapy with intention, right? I'm going to sit down, I'm going to listen to this song to de-stress, to relax, to cry, whatever you're doing it for. There's intention. I think that is how I define music therapy, right? And bringing an awareness with that. So as I've said, one of my awarenesses I try to bring is mental health, right? And it's not just mental health for all the people out there suffering with mental health challenges. It's mental health for yourself. What are you doing for you? Because I'm a firm believer in I cannot assist anybody else if I have unresolved issues or strong unresolved issues in my own life.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing with that is I'm bringing the mental health awareness, get a conversation going, what we're doing today, talking about that, and also having my expertise, my field of expertise, which is music, which is writing music, and bringing those together and getting that awareness out there and getting that conversation going. And at the same time, hopefully helping a few people along the way. There are people that are music therapists, like you say, they have the therapy, and you actually go into their home or their office, and you sit there and you lay there, and they play music over you or around you, or everybody has their own style. There's a little bit of everything out there. So I look at my music as a form of music therapy, because I'm not going to come into your home, or anything like that. It's more about, hey, it's there for you. It's there available. And if it works for you, share it with someone else that you know, because we all know someone that could probably use music in their life, and positive music in their life.
Brilliant. Good explanation.
I think it's, along the lines of being a therapist and having a toolbox with a set of tools within that to use for therapy. If you're going to qualify it as a profession, then you can be a therapist and use whichever tool you would like to use for the job that you have at hand. If you want to use music, then you use music as a therapist. But as Chris says, music therapy goes on every day. It's exactly like talking therapy. My wife's a therapist. She's a hypnotherapist, and obviously she uses rhythm and mood within her voice to set a tone and get somebody into a hypnotic semi-conscious state, so they're able to hear the message subconsciously, and lo and behold, it works for quite a few people that way. And that's what I see music doing in the same way as Chris mentioned. If somebody's doing household chores, even, you could be depressed doing those, right? but you turn the radio on, you listen to your rock and roll, and you start breaking free, pushing the Hoover around, and then all of a sudden everyone's really happy. So, you know, Freddie Mercury did it. Why can't we all do it? I'm not getting dressed up in suspenders, mind you, but you know, a bit of rock and roll doing the hoovering. I think it's great.
But that's such a good point, Rob, because you know my music is very calming and relaxing, right? So it's going to set you down. It's something you listen to 15 minutes before bedtime to really set yourself up for some sleep. But rock and roll, you know, my daughter and I, we dance in the kitchen almost every morning to Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars or whatever is going on. Puts her in the best mood ever. So it's whatever kind of music can put you in that mood is the right music for you. But it's,
and the neurotransmitters are firing all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
The dopamine.
Yeah, and then mentioning that toolbox too. That's such a great analogy, because yes, it's one thing. Or I've said, casting a stone into a pond, right? It's just one more stone in that pond. I look at music as just a portion of my day, even though that's my profession, right? I do it all the time, but I love going for walks out in nature. I mean, I love getting away from the hustle and bustle of the city and the town. And I love going out and taking nature walks. And that's where I get a lot of inspiration for my music. So I think a lot of people, and especially now in today's society with COVID, I mean, that's what you don't have any options. So that is a great option to do. But if you notice on the songs on the YouTube channel, they all accompany photography, and that's all photography I took. Out on these walks and out in places that meant a lot to me growing up, and I have a lot of fond memories of. And so I went back to those places and photographed them, and have some sort of a connection between what you're seeing visually on the screen and then what you're also hearing as well.
I'm interested, just that you said that you're going back to where you were when you were young.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking your daughter.
I have actually. I have taken her a few places. Yes. So my mom and I when I was, and I have no recollection of this, but there's a river close to where I live, and my mom would take me down there as a baby and push me along the river banks, and it's a beautiful walk. And I've taken my daughter down there many times, and we've done the same thing. And so it's a good feeling to be doing that.
Yeah, so it's bringing some good memories now back, and trying to just take that journey, like you said, taking forward now rather than looking back, which is really nice. Have you thought about where else you can take your music? For example, your music, for example, maybe help children with difficulties in whatever form they may have, or overactive, or learning difficulties. Is there any sort of thoughts around how else you can take your music?
Yes, there is. So for many years, in between my first album and when I lost my mom, I would play at senior homes, nursing homes, mental health facilities. I'd play live, and I'd go in there and I'd donate my time to do that, because I just felt that, I mean, I spent a lot of time around nursing homes just growing up. I knew a lot of family that had lived there, and just watching these people's lives, you know, and nobody visiting them, and then you want to talk about seeing joy on people's faces when you go in there and play songs. And it wouldn't just be my music. I'd play the classics, the hits that they grew up with, and, you know, songs they knew as well. But that was a tremendously rewarding experience to be able to do that. I haven't been able to do that in the last year, obviously. You know, part of the reason why I've been approaching my music the way I am, right, putting it on YouTube. And, you know, if I'm going to donate my time and efforts to go into these senior homes and nursing homes and play live, I feel that it calls to me to be able to put that up there and be able to offer it to the same places, just obviously not in a live setting. As far as children are concerned, I haven't really gone into schools. I will say this: my sister is a school teacher, and she has told me that when she was in class with her students, she would turn on my music for them, and it'd get them all to sit down and calm down and pay more attention to what they're doing. So, I mean, that's something that she's told me. So I said, if it works, keep doing it.
I wonder, Rob, what your thoughts are around using music, maybe like you said with autism and the like?
Oh, well, a couple of thoughts around what Chris has just been explaining, and even going back to, we're blessed, the three of us, to be physically active, and we can take walks in the countryside, and we can do other things with or without music, to get that bit of headspace, and or do a bit of mindfulness, or just sit down and be calm. There's so many people, as Chris mentions, nursing homes, just one example, where people are not physically able to do things that we take for granted that helps with our mental health, where they can use music, and it's so much easier for them to access. And there are people like Chris that do it as a profession, and go round to the nursing homes, and as Chris says, bring joy to the people that are there. And they do pass their minds back to when they were younger and physically fit and dancing around the dance floors after a couple of bottles and this or that, and just reminiscing. And that's great to be able to bring that to people who are less able to go out and help themselves. And obviously, as Stephen mentioned, I've got a 9-year-old daughter, and she's on the autism spectrum, and she uses music in a lot of areas of her life to help regulate. She'll sing along to some music, she'll sing along herself, she'll definitely put calming hypnotic music on for ready for bed. The list is endless when it comes to my daughter and music, and helping her regulate her mood. And that's definitely part and parcel of the autism spectrum. And it helps immensely. And I've seen that with other children who have the similar diagnosis as my daughter.
Yeah, you mentioned that your daughter with the autism, and I have not spent a lot of time around children with autism, but I will say this: I have one experience, and it was I want to say back in 2003. I was teaching music, and I had 20 students up at one point in my teaching career, and this young boy, he was probably 10 years old, and he had autism, and everybody knew that, and he was very hyper, couldn't sit still for very long, wanted to just make loud noises and run around and everything. And of course, everyone just kind of chalked it up to, well, that's who he is. Well, one day I was playing music, and I started to show him how to play. And I couldn't believe how quickly he picked stuff up so fast. And he was playing songs within a week, like that it would take months for other kids to learn. So I took him on as a student for a short period while he lived in the area. And his mom came to me one day and said, I've never seen him focus so much on one thing. He goes home every day and he focuses on that piano and plays and is calm and is doing things for him that music or that other therapies and other forms of treatment have never helped with. And it wasn't my music he was listening to or my music he was playing. It was just music. I was teaching him classical music. And I will say, it's such a tremendous impact that music can have, all forms of it, on people, especially those that are diagnosed with autism.
Yeah, completely agree.
I read there's a link around Alzheimer's as well, and obviously music would be very powerful. Obviously, we touched on that bringing back the memories, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, my grandmother had passed away from dementia about 4 years ago, and I remember a few times early stages on, being able to play for her. A few, and that was one of the connections that she was still able to know who I was by the music, and very, very powerful, very, very powerful memories.
With your music sort of expanding now, and Rob's mentioned hypnotherapists, and we've mentioned music therapists as well. How do you think your music could improve their lives, I suppose, as well? How do you think they could use your music?
When you say who do you mean specifically, or anyone?
Yeah, anyone.
Or,
Yeah, how can they
okay.
use your music? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I always tell people, I say, go and listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Go listen to it. Make sure it's something that you enjoy. Because what do most people do on the radio when a song comes on and they don't like it? They turn the station or they turn it off. They stop listening to it. So I think my music fits into that realm of music that most people can identify with it. Most people can listen to it and it impact them positively. So most people say they listen to it 10-15 minutes before they go to bed. But I have been having people tell me, you know what, I listen to it first thing in the morning because it just puts me in a happy mood. And I'm like, well, that's awesome. That's wonderful. Keep doing that if it works. And I, like I've said before, I think I've coined the phrase play it forward. If it's impacted you in a good way, then share it with someone else, because I think there's a lot of that can be happening more, and not just with my music, but with good things in general in life that happen to you. If it's affecting you in a good way, share that with someone else, because there's a really, really good chance it's going to help them too. And we could use more people like that in the world.
Because you just gave me that feel there, that bit there. How do you feel when you know people are listening to your music?
It's overwhelming. For me, it is. I can't speak for everybody that has written songs and how they feel, but for me, it's an overwhelming feeling of joy and satisfaction that I've been able to bring into someone's life. Also, it's very humbling as well. It's tremendously humbling because it's something that's very personal to me. The music that I've had in my head that I've been able to record is like a friend that's been with me my whole life that no one else has been able to meet. And I finally have gotten to introduce these friends, these very close friends of mine, to the world, or to people that have listened. And when they say, wow, that's we love what you're doing, it means a lot, because showing my music to people is it's very personal. It's not all the music that you listen to on my channel. Most of it sounds happy, but a lot of it came from a dark place within me, so there's a lot of release in that music. So, but yeah, it's very humbling when people tell me that it's helped them.
I don't know about Rob, but what I hear is obviously the journey has been all the way from mum through that life to the dark period of your life, and then there seems to be a lot more positivity now, and that journey seems to be on a very positive sort of route now, rather than where it was before.
Yeah, very happy right now in my life. We're talking early this morning. Karen and I were talking about after our session today, we're going to bring my daughter in here, and we're gonna let her play on the piano a little bit, because she loves to sit down and bang out her tunes. So that's my life right now. I have two full-time jobs. It's taking care of my daughter and obviously the music and the channel that I have. And she brings me so much joy every single day, and getting to influence her in that positive way, and give her a bit of what I was given growing up, and then that much more as well. So.
What would be your sort of biggest success be with your music, do you think? What is your biggest success, if I can get my words out?
Well, I think that depends on success, and each individual's person's experience with success is different, because my definition of a success is if I've impacted one person, if I've made a difference, and each time I do that, that is success. That is, I don't care if they heard it through someone else or a different, but if it impacted them, that's basically how I measure it.
So your music therapy really is just the fact that the music's there, isn't it? That's good enough. It sounds like that gives you just everything you need to tick the boxes. Like earlier on, you mentioned the Pandora's box that was open, but this one, as Rob said, that is your toolbox now. It seems to be that is the one that just keeps you happy, very grounded.
Yeah, and it's continuing to fill too. I mean, it's something that I'm thinking about day to day. You know, how am I going to be moving forward? Because it's one thing to be able to write an album of 10 songs and put it out there, and people say they like it, and then sit back and go, okay, well, I've done my work. I've accomplished what I want. But it's another thing to go sit back down, which I had to do shortly thereafter I released this album, and go, what's next? What do people? What can I do that is still bringing my style and my vision of music out there, but at the same time being able to give people what they're asking for and what they want in the way that they want it. So that it keeps me. It's a challenge, and it's fun, and I'm having a really good time doing it, and I'm just looking forward to the next project and being able to continue to bring more, because I associate my music with the mental health awareness conversation, and I don't want that to stop. I don't want that conversation to stop. So I look at keeping the conversation going in a very close association with my music, and just really trying to grapple with new ideas and how am I gonna bring it out to more and more people.
One of my last questions is thinking about your whole story over this last nearly hour. I think, how do you think music has saved you in some respects?
Oh wow. Yeah, music has saved my life. I could almost say it saves me daily, but there have been times, like we've mentioned, in dark times of my life where it's come to a point where I've always come back to my music. I've always come back to playing and sitting down and it being an old friend for me. And it saves me in a way that, because music is a language that I speak, and I can share that with the world, and being able to come into my studio late at night after the lights have been turned out and sit down, that is my salvation right there.
Rob, have you got anything to add? I think we've had a great chat.
No, it's been really good, and I was just taking all that in. It's clear to see by listening to you talk about your passion, Chris, that what a great thing that you're bringing to so many people, and through social media, it's been able to reach across the pond so easily, and we're so glad to have you on the show and talk about it, and so many parallels between stories, and I think we understand the part that music plays in people's recoveries and therapy and relaxing, and however you want to use it. It's just a great thing to witness and listen to you sitting all the way over in Seattle telling us about how it really turned your life around for you through tough times in life. And the message there is there's something for everyone. If it isn't music, don't give up looking, because you can bring the joy back into your life with however you've lost that flame. Go and see what the spark is required to set the flame alight again, and you clearly have, and that's a wonderful thing.
I think you said that very well. I mean, I'm really, it's been such a good chat talking with you. I mean, I think one of the biggest things is that coming out of this is just doing something for yourself daily, and if it's music, then good. If it's taking a walk like you did, this morning, you were saying, good. If it's taking a drive,
it was a run, but it was probably a walk.
Okay, well, run. Maybe it turned into a walk after a few months. I don't know, but But yeah, it's doing like the toolbox. It's doing what needs to be done to keep you in a good place so you can give that light to others. So well said. Yeah.
Like I said, yeah, I think Rob really hit it on the head there. Music is one of them. Like you said, Chris, nature, it's family, and all those things tick the box, don't they? Your social circles. And this is just another thing, like Rob said earlier, just to put in your toolbox. So it's been amazing talking
So
to him.
important nowadays with COVID to
Oh,
try
yeah.
and talk to people, to understand how you can try and make yourself better, and not just, you know, it's so easy to spiral downwards in depression when nothing's going right for you. And yeah, it's great to hear your story tonight.
There's a lot of reasons to give up, but there's it's harder to continue going on sometimes, and I've realized that. It's easy to throw your hands in the air, but you have to have commitment and willingness to really buckle down and do what's right, and do what's right for yourself and for your family. It's very true.
And as you said, Chris, reaching out, you have reached out across the pond, as Rob said, and managed to get that message out. And that might be, you know, just this conversation, anyone hearing this conversation could be reaching out to people that just listen to this and say, actually, we can all talk very openly here, and music could help. So it's amazing if your story has reached all the way across here and then reaches, like you say, one more person, then that's brilliant.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it, right? I mean, you know, even 10, 15 years ago, this wasn't possible. I mean, you know, you had to go knocking on door to door or playing from shop to shop, whatever it was. And so the fact that we can be having a conversation thousands of miles away, and you know, who knows who that's going to impact? Who knows who's going to hear this, you know, a week, month, year from now, and go, wow, this resonated with me. This spoke to me, and helps them and that person in a good, positive way. And for me, it's not just about what it does for that person too, but what that person can go and do for others and pass that along.
Correct. As I say, yeah, but your message may be passed on 1,000 times after that. You're 100% right. Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I said, I know it's been a great conversation. I've enjoyed speaking to you. I know you probably want to get on the rest of your day now. Day's nearly ended. That's how confusing it is.
Yeah.
So it's been absolutely brilliant. We'll keep following you on LinkedIn, where we saw you first off, and we'll keep following your story, and obviously we'll pass it on to as many people as we can.
No doubt, speak soon.
Yeah, we'll
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Rob. It's been a pleasure. I love talking with you and chatting with you. This has been a real treat for me.
It's been a real treat for us as well. I really want to wish you the best,
Thank you.
Chris, with everything you do, and have a really good day.
All right, you too.
Take care.